Captain Jake Morrison stared at the message on his screen and felt his blood turn cold. The words were simple enough, but their meaning hit him like a punch to the gut. The Galactic Council was ordering him to stand down his fleet and allow the Zephyrian Empire to take control of 3 human colony worlds. 3 worlds, millions of people, families who had built their lives on those planets for over 20 years. All to be handed over like trading cards because of some stupid dispute about shipping routes that humanity had nothing to do with. Jake's ship, the U's Defiance, floated in space above New Texas, one of the doomed colonies. Through his bridge windows, he could see the planet's cities glowing like jewels against the dark surface. His wife Lisa had grown up down there. His daughter had taken her first steps on that world's red soil. "Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Carter," his communications officer said. Jake nodded. "Put her through." Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on the main screen. Her usually calm expression was tight with barely controlled anger. Behind her, Jake could see the bridge of her flagship, the U.E.'s Guardian. Other officers moved around with the quick, nervous energy of people trying to stay busy when they felt helpless. "Jake, tell me you're seeing what I'm seeing," Lisa said without any greeting. "The surrender order?" "Yeah, I got it." Jake rubbed his forehead. "This is insane, Lisa. The Council is asking us to just give up 3 colonies because the Zephyrians complained about some trade routes near their space. Routes that we were using legally, by the way." Lisa's jaw tightened. "It gets worse. I just got word from Earth. President Rodriguez tried to appeal the decision. The Council wouldn't even let her speak, said the matter was closed." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. They wouldn't let the President of Earth speak? Arbiter Velther himself cut her off. Told her that humans lacked the cultural sophistication to understand galactic diplomacy. Lisa's voice was deadly quiet. Those were his exact words, Jake. Cultural sophistication. Jake closed his eyes. 50 years. For 50 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. 50 years of trying to prove they belonged among the stars. 50 years of following every rule, paying every tax, sending their best and brightest to serve on council worlds. 50 years of bending over backwards to show they were civilized. And this was what they got for it. "Sir," his tactical officer called out. "Long-range sensors are picking up the Zephyrian fleet. 47 ships, including 6 dreadnoughts. They'll be here in 6 hours." Jake opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display. His own fleet had 12 ships. Good ships with skilled crews, but 12 against 47 were not good. Odds, not that it mattered. The Council had made it clear that any resistance would be considered an act of rebellion against galactic law. "Admiral," came another voice from the comm system. "This is Dr. Kevin Walsh, calling from the research station." Jake knew Walsh. The man was humanity's chief expert on alien biology and had spent decades studying the other Council species. If anyone understood how the galaxy really worked, it was him. "Go ahead, Doctor," Lisa said. "I need to speak with you both immediately, in person. I've discovered something about the Council's decision that you need to see." Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. "Doctor, we're kind of busy right now," Jake said. "This can't wait, and it can't be transmitted over normal channels. Trust me, Admiral, Captain. What I have to show you changes everything." 20 minutes later, Jake was aboard Lisa's flagship in her ready room. Dr. Walsh sat across from them. At the conference table, a portable data unit in front of him. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I've been monitoring Council communications for months," Walsh began without preamble. "Not officially. Let's call it a hobby. What I found will make you sick." He activated the data unit. Alien text scrolled across the screen, along with what looked like star charts and fleet deployment maps. This is from the Zephyrian Military Command, sent to the Council 6 months ago. It's a proposal to neutralize what they call the human expansion problem. Jake leaned forward. What human expansion problem? Walsh's smile was bitter. Apparently, we're growing too fast. Our colonies are too successful. Our technology is advancing too quickly. The older council species are getting nervous. He touched the screen and brought up another document. This one is from the Altarian Trade Federation. They're worried about human merchant ships cutting into their profits. And this one is from the Crystalline Assembly. They think our military is becoming too powerful. Lisa stood up and began pacing, so they're all complaining about us. What's new? We've dealt with that kind of prejudice for decades. It's not just complaints anymore, Walsh said quietly. Look at this. The screen showed what looked like a formal agreement. Jake couldn't read the alien writing, but he recognized several council species official seals at the bottom. This is a secret treaty signed by 19 council species. They call it the Human Containment Protocol. The goal is to systematically weaken humanity over the next 50 years until we're no longer a threat to established galactic order. Jake felt the room spin around him. Weaken us how? Economic. Sanctions disguised as trade regulations. Territorial restrictions disguised as environmental protection. Forced relocations disguised as diplomatic solutions. Walsh gestured at the screen. This colony handover isn't about shipping routes, Jake. It's step one of a plan to strip away human worlds until we're back to just Earth and maybe a dozen systems. Lisa had stopped pacing. How long have you known about this? I've suspected for years that something was wrong. The evidence has been building, but I only cracked their encryption 3 days ago. Walsh looked up at them. There's more. If the containment protocol doesn't work, they have a backup plan. Something they call the final option. Jake didn't want to ask, but he had to. What's the final option? Walsh was quiet for a long moment. Complete removal of humanity from council space. They've already identified 12 species that could be used to colonize former human worlds after we're gone. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake stared at the alien text on the screen and felt something fundamental shift inside him. All those years of trying to be good citizens of the galaxy. All those times they'd swallowed their pride and followed orders they didn't like. All those compromises and diplomatic smiles, it had all been for nothing. Worse than nothing. They'd been cooperating in their own destruction. Admiral, Jake said finally, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest. I respectfully request permission to contact President Rodriguez directly. Lisa nodded slowly. Permission granted. And Jake? Tell her that I recommend we start looking at all our options. All of them. As Jake reached for the communication console, he looked out the window and knew Texas one more time. The planet looked peaceful from space, unaware that its people were about to become pawns in someone else's game. But not if Jake Morrison had anything to say about it. Not if any human had anything to say about it. The galaxy had just made a very serious mistake. They were about to learn what happened when you pushed humanity too far. 6 months had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. 6 months of silence from human space that made the galaxy breathe easier. The alien news networks ran stories about the temperamental humans finally learning their place. Council members joked in their private meetings about the angry primates going home to sulk on the pleasure world of Vega Prime. Zephyrian nobles laughed over expensive drinks as they talked about their new human colonies. The humans had left so quickly, abandoning their cities and farms. It was almost too easy. Some of the nobles wondered if humans were even worth worrying about in the first place. But in the deep black of space, far from the trade routes and communication networks, Something very different was happening. General Rick Stone stood on the observation deck of the hidden shipyard, designated Forge Alpha. Through the reinforced windows, he watched as the largest construction project in human history took shape. Dozens of ships floated in various stages of completion, their hulls gleaming under the harsh work lights. These weren't the ships that the galaxy knew humans could build. These were something entirely new. "Status report," Stone said to the woman. Beside him, Dr. Maya Foster consulted her tablet. "Production is ahead of schedule. We've completed 47 vessels in the past month alone. The new manufacturing techniques are working better than we hoped." Stone nodded. Maya had been the one to figure out how to mass-produce the advanced components they needed. While the galaxy thought humans were primitive, Maya's teams had been quietly studying every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on for decades. What about the weapon systems? Fully operational. The first test runs exceeded all expectations. Maya's smile was sharp. The Council species won't know what hit them. Stone allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The galaxy had made one critical mistake about humans. They assumed that because humanity was new to galactic society, they were also new to warfare. The truth was very different. Humans had been perfecting the art of war for thousands of years before they ever left Earth. "Sir," came a voice from behind them. "Commander Hayes is requesting permission to board." Stone turned. "Send him up." "Commander." Ben Hayes arrived a few minutes later, still wearing his stealth suit for whatever mission he'd just completed. His face was grim but determined. "Report," Stone said. "The resistance networks are fully operational. We have active cells on all 3 occupied worlds, plus 17 other systems where humans are being mistreated." Ben pulled up a holographic map. "The colonists we evacuated weren't just relocated. They're organized, trained, and very, very angry." Stone studied the map. Red dots marked locations where human resistance groups were operating. There were far more dots than he'd expected. What about intelligence gathering? That's the interesting part. We're not just getting information from humans anymore. The Altarians have a group that's been secretly helping us. So do the Kroleks and the Bettans. Turns out we're not the only species that's tired of Council rule. This was news to Stone. "How many species are we talking about?" "At least dozen so. Far, maybe more. Diana Clark's people are working on establishing formal contact." Ben's expression grew darker. "General, some of the things we're learning about the Council, it's worse than we thought." Stone gestured for him to continue. "The Council didn't just plan to contain humanity. They've done this before. At least 6 different species over the past 1,000 years. Some were relocated to reservation worlds. Others just disappeared." The room fell silent. Stone felt a cold anger building in his chest. "Disappeared how?" "We're still gathering details. But it looks like the Council has been systematically eliminating any species that grows too powerful or independent. They call it galactic stability maintenance." Dr. Foster looked up from her tablet. "That explains some of the gaps in the historical records. Species that were mentioned in early Council documents, but never appeared in later ones." Stone walked to the window and looked out at the ships under construction. Each one represented months of work, careful planning, and the hopes of billions. Of humans who were counting on them. But now he realized they were building more than just a defense fleet. They were building the tools to liberate an entire galaxy. "Sir," another voice called from the communications station. "Priority message from Scout Captain Tony Miller. He's requesting immediate conference with senior command." Stone frowned. Miller was one of their best deep space scouts, but he was supposed to be on a routine survey mission in the Outer Rim. "Put him through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Miller's face. The man looked excited and tired at the same time. "General Stone, I need to report something that changes everything." "Go ahead, Captain." "I found them, sir. The lost colonies." Stone felt his heart skip. The lost colonies were a legend among humans. Ships that had left Earth during the early expansion period and were never heard from again. Most people assumed they'd been destroyed or had failed to find habitable worlds. "How many colonies, Captain?" "3 so far, sir." "But these aren't failed settlements. They're thriving civilizations." And General ... Miller paused as if he couldn't believe what he was about to say. "Their technology is 50 years ahead of anything the Council has." The room erupted in excited conversation, but Stone held up his hand for silence. "Explain." "The first colony I found calls itself Haven. They've been developing in complete isolation for over a century. No contact with Earth, no knowledge of the Council, nothing. They've had to solve every problem on their own." Miller's voice grew stronger. "They've figured out things that Council scientists say are impossible. Gravity manipulation faster than light. Communication, energy shields that can protect entire planets." Stone looked at Dr. Foster, who was staring at the screen with her mouth open. "Captain, are they willing to help us?" Miller's grin was answer enough. "Sir, when I told them what the Council has been doing to humanity, they started loading their ships with weapons. They're asking for coordinates to send their fleet." Stone felt something shift in his chest. For months, he'd been planning a defensive war, trying to figure out how to protect humanity from the Council's next move. But now, ... quotes Dr. Foster, "how long until our fleet is ready?" 2 weeks for the first wave. 6 weeks for full deployment. "Commander." "Hayes, how long to activate all resistance cells?" "I can have them ready to move in 72 hours. Stone turned back to the screen. "Captain Miller, tell our lost brothers and sisters that it's time to come home. And tell them to bring everything they've got." As the meeting broke up and his officers hurried to their tasks, Stone remained at the window. The galaxy thought humanity was hiding in shame, licking their wounds after being humiliated by the Council. The galaxy was about to learn how wrong they were. Humanity wasn't hiding. They were preparing. And when they were ready, the Council would discover that pushing humans too far was the last mistake they would ever make. In the distance, another ship completed its final assembly and moved toward the launch bay. Its hull bore no markings, no identification that would reveal its origin. But Stone knew what it represented. It represented the end of the Council's rule and the beginning of something new. Something better. Something that would make the galaxy remember why it was dangerous to make humanity angry. Admiral Zektar of the Zephyrian Empire was enjoying his morning meal when the emergency alarm began screaming through his flagship. The sound was so loud and urgent that he dropped his cup, spilling blue liquid across his command chair. "What is happening?" he demanded as he rushed onto the bridge. His communications officer looked pale and confused. "Sir, we've lost contact with the occupation fleet at New Texas." Zektar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Lost contact how? Equipment failure?" "No, sir. They just ... stopped responding." All 47 ships went silent at exactly the same time. That was impossible. Fleet communication systems had multiple backups. Even if the main ships were destroyed, the automated distress beacons would still be transmitting. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "long-range scanners are picking up something strange in the New Texas system." "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a tactical view of the New Texas system. Where the Zephyrian fleet should have been, there was nothing. No ships, no debris, no energy signatures. It was as if 47 warships had simply vanished into empty space. "That's not possible," Zektar whispered. "Sir, incoming transmission from New Texas Ground Control. Put it through." The screen changed to show a human face. A woman with short brown hair and calm eyes. She wore the uniform of a colonial administrator, but something about her expression made Zektar's skin crawl. Admiral Ziktar, I presume. My name is Administrator Sarah Martinez. I'm calling to inform you that the occupation of New Texas has ended. Your fleet has been captured intact, along with all personnel. Zektar's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Captured? That's impossible. You have no ships capable of... We have your ships now, Sarah interrupted. 47 Zephyrian vessels, undamaged and fully operational. Your crews are being held in comfortable conditions and will be returned to you when this conflict is resolved. This is an act of war against the Galactic Council. Sarah's smile was cold. Admiral, humanity withdrew from the Council 6 months ago. We are no longer bound by Council law. Your occupation of our worlds was an illegal invasion by a foreign power. We have every right to defend ourselves. The transmission ended, leaving Zektar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew whispered in shocked voices. 47 ships captured without a fight. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was. Sir, priority transmission from Nexus Prime. Council emergency session. An hour later, Zektar was looking at a holographic display showing the emergency council meeting. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great chamber, their voices creating a buzz of confused panic. Arbiter Velthur stood at the center podium, his tall frame radiating authority. Order. We will have order. The chamber slowly quieted. We have confirmed reports of human military action against Council-authorized peacekeeping forces. The humans have violated galactic law by attacking Zephyrian vessels in the New Texas system. A crystalline representative raised a glowing appendage. Honored Arbiter, our intelligence suggests the humans did not attack the fleet. They captured it. How is this possible? Velthur's expression darkened. The method is irrelevant. The humans have committed an act of war against the entire Council. They must be brought to heel immediately. Sir, came a voice from the back of the chamber. We're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. They're requesting to address the Council. Velthur's laugh was sharp and bitter. The humans lost their right to address this body when they abandoned their responsibilities 6 months ago. We do not negotiate with criminals. Actually, came a new voice, you'll want to hear what we have to say. Every head in the chamber turned toward the main viewing screen. The image showed a human woman sitting behind a simple desk. She wore a dark blue uniform with stars on the collar. Her expression was calm but determined. I am Admiral Lisa Carter, speaking on behalf of the human government. I'm calling to inform the Council that humanity's period of cooperation has ended. Velthur stepped forward. You have no authority to address this body. Your illegal actions will continue until the Council agrees to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict. Admiral Carter's voice cut through his objections like a blade. Let me be clear about our position. Humanity is no longer a member of the Galactic Council. We are now an independent power, and we will act accordingly. You are criminals and terrorists. We are a free people defending ourselves against illegal occupation. Carter leaned forward. The Zephyrian fleet was captured using non-lethal methods. No one was killed. No ships were destroyed. We could have handled this very differently. The chamber fell silent at the implied threat. You have 24 hours to withdraw all occupation forces from human worlds and begin negotiations for a formal peace treaty. If you refuse, we will begin liberating our colonies by force. You have no ships capable of threatening Council forces, Velthur snarled. Your pathetic fleet was outnumbered and outgunned 6 months ago. The situation has not changed. Admiral. Carter smiled. and the expression made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Actually, it has changed quite a bit. Allow me to introduce you to the UES Retribution. The screen split, showing Admiral Carter on one side and a view of space on the other. At first, there seemed to be nothing there. Then the stars began to bend and twist, as if space itself was being folded like paper. A ship appeared. Not emerged from hyperspace or decloaked, but simply appeared as if it had always been there. It was massive, easily twice the size of the largest Council dreadnought, and its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Retribution is equipped with gravitational manipulation technology, Admiral Carter continued, as if she were discussing the weather. It can create localized space-time distortions, allowing for instant movement across vast distances. Traditional shields and weapons are ineffective against gravitational fields. Velther stared at the screen in horror. That technology is theoretical. It's impossible. Many things are impossible until someone does them. Humanity has had a lot of time to work on impossible things. The image of the ship vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The Retribution is currently positioned above the Zephyrian homeworld. Its captain has orders to demonstrate our capabilities if the Council chooses to escalate this conflict. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives shouted questions and demands while their translation devices struggled to keep up. Through it all, Admiral Carter sat calmly, waiting. Finally, Velther managed to restore order. What do you want? Peace, recognition of human sovereignty, withdrawal of all occupation forces, and formal negotiations between equals. The Council does not negotiate with inferior species. Admiral Carter's expression hardened. Then you'll learn what happens when you underestimate a species you consider inferior. You have 24 hours. The transmission ended, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. In the command center of the UES Retribution, Captain Alex Thompson watched the gravitational sensors with satisfaction. The ship's new drive system was working perfectly, allowing them to move instantly between star systems without using traditional hyperspace routes. Captain, his communications officer reported, Admiral Carter is requesting a status update. Tell the Admiral that we're in position and ready to proceed. The Council has 24 hours to make the right choice. Alex looked out at the stars and thought about the past 6 months. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as primitive and weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The age of human submission was over. The age of human liberation had begun. The Council's response came 18 hours later, and it was not what Admiral Lessa Carter had hoped for. All Council member species are hereby ordered to mobilize their military forces for immediate deployment against the human rebellion. Arbiter Velther announced over the emergency broadcast. This illegal uprising must be crushed before it spreads to other systems. Carter watched the announcement from her command center on Earth, surrounded by holographic displays showing fleet movements across the galaxy. Every major Council species was moving their ships toward human space. The largest military force in galactic history was assembling to destroy humanity once and for all. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, we're tracking over 3,000 ships converging on the Wolf's Gate system. They're using it as a staging area. Carter nodded grimly. Wolf's Gate was the perfect location for the Council to launch their attack. It was a system on the edge of human space, with multiple hyperspace routes leading to Earth and the other core human worlds. What's our fleet strength? 200 ships ready for immediate deployment. The reserve fleets won't be ready for another week. 200 against 3,000. The odds were worse than anything humanity had ever faced. But Carter had been expecting this moment for months. She'd been preparing for it. Signal all ships. We're moving to Wolf's Gate. Admiral, her tactical officer said carefully, are you sure about this? We could wait for reinforcements or try to hit them while they're still scattered. Carter shook her head. They're expecting us to run or hide. They think we'll be smart and avoid a direct confrontation. She smiled coldly. They're about to learn that humans don't always do the smart thing. 6 hours later, Carter stood on the bridge of the U's sovereignty, watching as the largest fleet in human history dropped out of hyperspace at Wolf's Gate. Through the main view screen, she could see the massive Council armada waiting for them. Thousands of ships arranged in perfect formations, their weapons already powered and ready. "Captain Morrison," she said to the man beside her, "signal the fleet. All ships are to follow the new combat protocols, exactly as we practiced." Jake Morrison nodded. "Aye, Admiral. All ships report ready." Carter activated the fleet-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Carter to all ships. Today we fight not just for our own freedom, but for the freedom of every species in this galaxy that has been oppressed by the Council. Show them what humans can do when we stop being polite." The Council fleet moved first, their massive dreadnoughts, advancing in the traditional formation that had won battles for 1,000 years. They came forward slowly, deliberately, their shields glowing with power. "Admiral," Morrison reported, "Council fleet is demanding our surrender. They're offering to spare civilian populations if we stand down immediately. Tell them we'll give them the same consideration they gave our colonies," Carter replied. The battle began when the Council ships opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled the space between the two fleets. It was the most devastating opening salvo in galactic history, but the human ships weren't there anymore. "Gravitational drives engaged," Morrison reported calmly. "All ships have successfully jumped to attack positions." Carter watched the tactical display with satisfaction. While the Council fleet had been firing at empty space, the human ships had used their new gravity manipulation technology to instantly appear in the middle of the enemy formation. All ships commenced Rapid Strike Pattern Alpha. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing around the massive Council vessels. They struck fast and hard, targeting specific systems before vanishing again. "We're disrupting their formation," Morrison observed. "They can't maintain their firing patterns when they don't know where we are." But the real surprise came when the human ships began to fight in ways that no alien species had ever imagined. Instead of relying purely on their technology, the human crews began to interface directly with their ship's systems. Carter felt the connection activate in her own mind. Through the ship's sensors, she could see the entire battlefield as if she were floating in space herself. She could feel the gravitational fields around nearby ships, sense the energy patterns of enemy weapons, and respond to threats before her instruments even detected them. "This is incredible," Morrison whispered. "I can feel the entire battle." "That's what makes us different," Carter replied, her consciousness split between her physical body and the ship's systems. "Other species built machines to fight for them. We became part of our machines." The Council forces began to panic as their carefully organized battle lines collapsed. Ships that had been in perfect formation suddenly found themselves isolated and surrounded. Their commanders, trained in traditional fleet tactics, had no idea how to fight an enemy that could appear anywhere at any time. "Admiral," came a transmission from Captain Alex Thompson aboard the Retribution. "Council reserves are moving in from the outer system. Looks like they're trying to surround us." Carter smiled. "Let them come. General Stone, are your people ready?" "All ground forces standing by," came Stone's voice over the communication system. The Council's second wave of ships arrived to find something that shocked them even more than the space battle. On the surface of Wolf's Gate's single planet, massive structures were rising from the ground. Not buildings or defensive installations, but something far more advanced. "Those are planetary defense platforms," Morrison said in amazement. "When did we build those?" "We didn't build them," Carter replied. "We grew them." The truth was something that would have terrified the Council if they had understood it. Humanity hadn't just developed new technology during their 6 months of isolation. They had learned to create living ships and structures that could adapt and evolve in real time. The planetary platforms opened fire, but their weapons were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they fired streams of what looked like living metal. When the streams hit Council ships, they didn't just damage them, they took them over. "Admiral," Thompson reported, "Council ships are surrendering. The living metal is interfacing with their computer systems. They're losing control of their own vessels." Carter watched as ship after ship went dark, their weapons powering down as the alien crews lost control of their own technology. In less than an hour, the largest fleet in galactic history had been completely neutralized. "Admiral Carter," came a transmission from the Council flagship. "This is Fleet Admiral Corvex. We ... We surrender." Carter activated the main view screen. The alien commander looked defeated and confused. "Admiral Corvex, you're not surrendering to us. You're surrendering to the future. A future where species work together instead of one ruling over all the others. How did you do this? Your technology, your tactics ... It's impossible." "You made the same mistake everyone makes about humans," Carter replied. "You assumed that because we're new to the galaxy, we're primitive. The truth is, we're not just another species that happened to develop spaceflight. We're the children of the race that created this galaxy's civilization in the first place." The revelation hit the Council fleet like a physical blow. Ancient records spoke of the predecessors, the mysterious race that had seeded the galaxy with life millions of years ago before vanishing without a trace. Dr. Kevin Walsh's research teams have been studying the genetic patterns of every species in the Council. Carter continued. "What they found was that every intelligent species in this galaxy shares certain genetic markers. Markers that can be traced back to a single source. Humanity doesn't just share those markers. We are the direct descendants of the predecessors." The silence that followed was deafening. "The Council has spent 1,000 years suppressing species that might challenge their authority," Carter said. "But you can't suppress your own creators forever. Humanity is home, and we're not going to let you destroy what our ancestors built." As the last Council ships powered down their weapons, Carter looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was about to change forever, and humanity was going to make sure it changed for the better. The news of humanity's victory at Wolf's Gate spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, alien news networks were broadcasting the impossible footage of 3,000 Council ships surrendering to a human fleet 1/7 their size. But the real shock came from the recordings of Admiral Carter's revelation about humanity's true origins. On worlds throughout the galaxy, species that had been suppressed and controlled by the Council for centuries began to whisper. If humans were really the descendants of the predecessors, then everything the Council had taught them about galactic history was a lie. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE Sovereignty, watching the tactical display with amazement. The map showed dozens of star systems where alien species were rising up against Council authority. It wasn't just humans fighting anymore. It was becoming a galaxy-wide revolution. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from Council garrison forces in the Altair system. The local population has surrounded their bases." Morrison nodded. "Tell them we'll accept their surrender, but they have to agree to stand trial for their crimes against civilian populations." It had been 2 weeks since Wolf's Gate, and the momentum was building every day. Species that had been too afraid to resist the Council now saw that the powerful galactic government could be defeated. They were joining the fight in numbers that surprised even the human command. "Sir, incoming transmission from Commander Hayes." Morrison smiled. Ben Hayes had been leading joint human-alien strike teams across the galaxy, liberating worlds that had been under Council control for generations. His success rate was perfect, but more importantly, he was showing other species that humans could be trusted as allies. Hayes' face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Morrison could see what looked like a mixed group of humans and aliens working together on some kind of technical equipment. "Captain, I'm reporting from the Balek system. We've successfully liberated the mining colonies here, but we've discovered something important." "Go ahead, Commander." The Council wasn't just suppressing these species for political reasons. They've been stealing their technology and resources for centuries. The Baleks are natural engineers, but the Council has been forcing them to work in primitive conditions while taking their innovations for themselves. Morrison felt his anger growing. The more they learned about the Council's activities, the worse it got. What kind of innovations? They've developed a way to create self-repairing materials. Their buildings and ships can actually heal themselves when damaged. But the Council has been keeping this technology secret and using it only for their own fleets. "Can we integrate it with our own technology?" Hayes grinned. "Already working on it." The Balek's engineers are excited to finally be able to share their knowledge freely. They've also volunteered to join our engineering teams. This was happening everywhere. As human forces liberated world after world, they were discovering that the Council had been hoarding the best technology and ideas from dozens of species. The galaxy was far more advanced than anyone had realized, but the Council had been keeping everyone separated and weak. "Captain Morrison," came another voice over the communication system. "This is Dr. Maya Foster calling from the research station." "Go ahead, Doctor. I've been working with the science teams from the liberated worlds, and we've made a breakthrough. By combining human biointegration technology with the engineering techniques from other species, we've created something incredible." Morrison waited for her to continue. "We can now build ships that are part machine, part living organism, and part energy field. They're stronger, faster, and more adaptable than anything the galaxy has ever seen. The first prototype will be ready for testing in 3 days." Morrison shook his head in amazement. 6 months ago, humanity had been on the verge of extinction. Now they were leading a galactic revolution and creating technology that would have seemed like magic to the Council. "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted. "Long-range sensors are detecting a massive energy signature approaching from the galactic core. It's bigger than anything we've seen before." Morrison turned to look at the tactical display. A red dot was moving slowly, but steadily toward their position. The energy readings were off the charts. "What is it?" "Unknown, sir. But it's heading directly for the Council homeworld cluster." Morrison activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is the Sovereignty. We have an unknown contact approaching from the galactic core. All vessels are to maintain ready status until we can identify the threat." The answer came 6 hours later when Admiral Carter contacted him from Earth. "Jake, we've identified the energy signature. It's not a ship. It's a space station. The largest artificial structure ever built." Morrison felt a chill. "Council superweapon?" "No. It's something much older. Our analysis suggests it's been drifting in the galactic core for millions of years. And Jake, it's moving under its own power now." The implications hit Morrison like a physical blow. "The predecessors? That's what we think. Something about our return to the galaxy has activated their ancient technology. We're sending you enhanced sensor data now." Morrison watched as the information flowed across his screens. The structure was massive beyond comprehension, easily the size of a small moon. But what made his blood run cold was that it was clearly artificial, and it was heading directly for the Council's most important worlds. "Admiral, what are our orders?" "We're going to make contact. If this really is predecessor technology, we need to understand what it wants. And we need to make sure it doesn't destroy half the galaxy in the process." "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown structure. It's in perfect standard human language." Morrison's heart nearly stopped. "Put it through." The main screen activated, showing not an alien face, but what looked like a human woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to contain stars. "Greetings, descendants. I am Keeper Elena, guardian of the predecessor archive. I have been waiting for you to reclaim your birthright." The bridge fell silent. Morrison found his voice first. "Keeper Elena, we didn't know you still existed." Elena smiled sadly. "We did not die, child. We evolved. When we seeded the galaxy with life, we also prepared for the day when our children would be ready to join us in the next phase of existence." "The next phase?" "The galaxy is not alone in the universe. There are others out there, other galactic civilizations, and not all of them are friendly. We have been preparing defenses for millions of years, waiting for the day when our children would be united and strong enough to help us protect this galaxy." Morrison felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. "What do you need us to do?" "First, we must finish what you have started. The Council's rule must end completely, and we must prepare for what is coming. Our sensors have detected approaching fleets from the Andromeda galaxy. They are not coming in peace." The screen flickered as Alana's image began to fade. "We will speak again soon, Captain Morrison. For now, know that you and your allies are not alone. The predecessors are proud of what you have accomplished, and we are ready to help you finish it." The transmission ended, leaving Morrison staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. "Sir," his tactical officer finally whispered, "what do we do now?" Morrison looked out at the stars and thought about everything that had happened. Humanity had gone from being the galaxy's underdogs to leading a revolution that would change everything. And now they were being asked to help defend the entire galaxy against an unknown threat. "We do what humans do best," he said finally. "We adapt, we fight, and we protect the people we care about. Signal all ships. We're going to finish this war, and then we're going to get ready for whatever comes next." As the human fleet prepared to move toward the Council homeworlds, Morrison couldn't help but smile. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far, and now everything was going to change. But for the first time in months, he felt like they were ready. For whatever challenges lay ahead, the age of the Council was ending. The age of unity was about to begin. 3 months later, President Amy Rodriguez stood in what had once been the Council's Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime, the massive chamber that had once echoed with the voices of oppressors, now buzzed with the sounds of construction and cooperation. Representatives from over 200 species worked together, designing the framework for a new kind of galactic government. The war was over. The last Council loyalists had surrendered when their homeworlds were surrounded by the combined fleets of 40 different species. But ending the war had been the easy part compared to what came next. "Madam President," said Dr. Maya Foster as she approached with a data tablet, "the engineering teams have finished their preliminary report on galactic infrastructure. The Council left things in worse shape than we thought." Amy nodded grimly. "How bad?" 17 species were on the verge of technological collapse because the Council had been restricting their access to basic resources. 43 worlds have environmental damage that will take decades to repair. And the economic systems were designed to funnel wealth to just 12 species while keeping everyone else barely surviving. Amy rubbed her temples. Leading the revolution had been challenging, but building something better was proving even harder. What's the good news? Maya's smile brightened. The good news is incredible. Now that species can share their knowledge freely, we're seeing innovations that are beyond anything we imagined. The crystalline assembly has developed energy storage that's 90% more efficient than our best batteries. The Galactic engineers have created self-repairing hull materials that make ships nearly indestructible. And the Altarians have figured out how to grow food in space that's more nutritious than anything planet-based. And they're willing to share all of this? More than willing, eager. It turns out that most species are naturally cooperative when they're not being forced to compete for artificial scarcity. Amy walked to the great windows that looked out over the city. Where once there had been towering monuments to council authority, now there were parks and research centers where beings from dozens of worlds worked side by side. "Madam President," came a voice behind her. Admiral Lisa Carter entered the room, followed by General Rick Stone and Commander Ben Hayes. "Admiral, what's the status on fleet integration?" "Better than expected. The new ships that combine technology from multiple species are performing beyond all projections. We've got vessels that can repair themselves, adapt to new threats into the sea, real-time, and operate with crews from 6 different species working as a single unit." General Stone stepped forward. "The ground forces are equally impressive. When you combine human tactical thinking with Krolek's strength, Altarian speed, and Balek's engineering, you get units that can handle anything." Amy felt a surge of pride, but also worry. That's good news, because we're going to need every advantage we can get. She activated the room's main display, showing a long-range sensor image of the galaxy's edge. Dark shapes moved against the stars, hundreds of them, approaching from the direction of the Andromeda galaxy. Keeper Elena's warning was accurate. The Andromedans are coming, and they're bringing a fleet that makes the old Council Armada look like a patrol squadron. Carter studied the tactical data. "How long do we have?" 6 months, maybe 7. Their ships are using a type of faster-than-light drive we've never seen before. They're moving faster than should be physically possible. Commander Hayes frowned. "What do we know about their intentions?" "Nothing good," Amy replied. "The predecessor. Archive has records of previous contact with Andromedan forces. They don't negotiate, they don't take prisoners, and they don't leave survivors. They strip galaxies of resources and move on." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "However," Amy continued, "we have advantages that previous target galaxies didn't have." She activated another display, this one showing the current state of their own galaxy, instead of the scattered, competing civilizations that had existed. Under Council rule, the map now showed a unified network of cooperative species. "We have the predecessor technology working with us now. We have the combined knowledge and abilities of over 200 species. And we have something the Andromedans have probably never encountered before." "What's that?" Stone asked. Amy smiled. "We have humans who refuse to give up, leading species, who have learned that working together makes everyone stronger." The next 6 months passed in a blur of preparation, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked side by side to build defenses. Ancient predecessor installations came online for the first time in millions of years. New weapons and ships rolled out of integrated manufacturing centers at an incredible pace. Captain Jake Morrison, now Fleet Admiral, stood on the bridge of the UE's New Dawn, the most advanced ship ever built. Around him, the combined fleet of the Galactic Federation stretched as far as the eye could see. 2,000 ships from dozens of species, all working together under a unified command structure. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "Keeper's Elena's ship is requesting permission to join the formation." "Granted. Put her through." Keeper Elena's ageless face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Jake could see technology that seemed to bend reality itself. Admiral Morrison, the archive ships are ready. Are your people prepared for what's coming? Jake looked around his bridge, where humans worked alongside Altarians, Belecs, Crystallans, and a dozen other species. As ready as we can be, Keeper. Our crews have trained together. Our ships are integrated with the best technology from every species. And our tactics are designed around cooperation rather than dominance. Good. The Andromedans are expecting to find a divided galaxy full of primitive species fighting each other. Instead, they're going to find something that hasn't existed for millions of years. A truly united galactic civilization. The long range. Sensors activated, showing the Andromedan fleet dropping out of their impossible faster-than-light drive at the galaxy's edge. The enemy ships were massive, dark, and clearly built for destruction rather than exploration. Admiral, Jake's tactical officer, reported, "The Andromedan fleet is transmitting. It's the same message on all frequencies. Let's hear it." The voice that came through the speakers was cold and mechanical. "Attention, primitive species. Your galaxy has been selected for resource extraction. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. Resistance will result in extended suffering before inevitable extinction." Jake activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. You've just heard what the Andromedans think of us. They see us as primitives who will roll over and die when they arrive." He paused, looking out at the thousands of ships under his command. "They're about to learn that this galaxy is under new management, and the new management doesn't surrender." The Andromedan fleet began to advance, their dark ships moving in perfect formation toward the galactic core. They expected to sweep through, scattered resistance, and strip the galaxy bare within months. Instead, they found themselves facing something unprecedented, an entire galaxy that had learned to fight as one. The final battle for the Milky Way was about to begin. And for the first time in galactic history, every species was fighting on the same side. The Council had pushed humanity too far, and in doing so, they had accidentally created the very thing that would save everyone. A galaxy where cooperation was stronger than conquest, where diversity was a source of strength rather than division, and where the descendants of the predecessors had finally come home to reclaim their soul. Earthright docked as the two fleets approached each other across the vast emptiness of intergalactic space. Jake Morrison smiled. The Andromedans were about to discover what happened when you threatened a galaxy that had learned to work together. They were about to meet humanity and their friends, and humanity was done being polite.